You're listening to the fourth Peep Show of Bare Naked Bravery, where Emily Ann Peterson, your host, that's me, I go through a subject that I'm dealing with right now and just get a little bit vulnerable and give you a little bit of peek behind the curtain. So over the last month and a half, or actually 2 months probably, I've been making a big decision. And it was one that affected a lot of people, my immediate clients and students, and also my close friends who live nearby. My decision was, drumroll please, to take a semi-sabbatical and live with family in Atlanta for a season, just to be with family and spend time finishing up some creative projects and all of that. So I mentioned this. This is great. It's great news. It's wonderful. It's exciting. But I mentioned this because it's something that I wanted to discuss a little bit more in the podcast episodes coming up and also today, which is, how do you know when to be vulnerable? Like, what is the timing? I know that we talk a lot about boundaries in the episodes with our awesome guests, and it's something that, kind of comes up with this concept of selfies and self-image that Bethany and I discussed in our most recent episode released this week. So how I approached this decision specifically was really just core and out. I told my immediate people that it affected, of course, the people out in Atlanta, my family out there. Told them that it was happening. They're all pumped. They're all excited. And then the next part was working my way out of my core circle of trust, shall we call it. Great movie, by the way. Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers. Really funny movie. So I worked from my circle of trust and out. And I think that's a pretty great approach in general when you're dealing with a sensitive announcement. And this is not necessarily sensitive. I knew that the timing of releasing this announcement was needed a little bit more care than just, hey, you guys, I'm going and doing something crazy. So I started with the immediate folks, my circle of trust, and worked my way out towards the public. This actually is my first announcement of that. And I think that the circle of trust and out approach for revealing yourself is actually a really safe way to be brave. You can be brave with the people that you trust. You can be brave with people that you might not know how they'll respond. And then you can be brave with the people who, you really don't care how they respond. Now, in this case, I do care how you respond to what I put out there. But it's not going to stop me from making the decision that I'm making, if that makes sense. So I wanted to ask you guys a question with this announcement. When you're brave, or when you've made the choice to be brave, how do you go about making that announcement? Do you go circle of trust out? Do you go crazy, like throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping something sticks? Do you keep it to yourself? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves these days. I mean, social media and our privacy is something that is really changing and morphing as we go forward as a society. And in a lot of ways, I think it's a good thing. But there is something, like I felt over the last 2 months, I say. Over the last 2 months, I have known something that not everyone else knows about me. And that felt new. It actually felt really good. It felt really healthy. And it actually put inside of me a desire to keep more of myself behind the curtain. And I know that this podcast is all about being brave and being bare naked and revealing yourself, but I think that there's something really important to that, to this fact that you're only being brave and you're only being expository. Well, it's probably a Bushism. Expository is not a word, but you're only revealing yourself if you at one time were behind something, if you at one time were hidden. And I think there is a season and there's a really specific and healthy time to put yourself under your shell or put yourself behind the curtain and protect yourself. Otherwise, we run the risk of overexposure and skin cancer and skin blisters from being exposed to too much sun and too much light. So if you've got an answer to my question of how do you reveal yourself to the world, like what is the actual process that you usually choose to reveal yourself to the world? If you have an answer to that question, you can tweet me or comment on Facebook or on the blog or on Instagram. And I would love to hear your response. Truly, I really would. The brave takeaway, beyond just reacting and telling me what you think, the brave takeaway is asking yourself this question: what parts of yourself should stay hidden today? What parts of yourself should stay intimate? That's a really good question, and it's one that I don't necessarily think I have the full answer to, especially for you. I think it's definitely a subjective response and answer, but I don't know if I even have that answer for myself. So I think it's a really good one to keep asking ourselves, especially on a daily basis, as our world becomes more like Facebook Live. If you have enjoyed this episode, then go ahead and subscribe to Bare Naked Bravery on iTunes. That helps us out. You can leave a review on iTunes. That also helps us out. Or if you think you have a friend who would really enjoy some of the episodes that we've covered in the past couple weeks, go ahead and share this podcast with them. It's the way that bravery is spread, which is from person to person and from small revelations through intimate connections. And with that, I want to wish you a really great weekend. We will see you on Tuesday for our awesome episode with Barry Tesler. She's a money and financial therapist, and she has a really cool story to tell you about what to say or how to walk away from something, which is pretty brave in and of itself. Again, if that interests you and you're not subscribed to the podcast, then you should probably just push subscribe, because that way we'll automatically give it to you when it's out. With that, I want to just wish you a really awesome, great weekend. And as always, be yourself, be vulnerable, be brave, because the world needs your bare naked bravery.